Hello and welcome. Ongoing fighting along the whole front line while Ukraine strikes once more into the Russian capital, as well as more information about the Chonhar Bridge attack in this situational picture. The disadvantage in my way of doing these situational pictures and the situation reports by just having a few bullet points is that I occasionally add something in the flow of the theme. And as such, yesterday I said that I have never seen pontoon bridges with railways and that this might not be possible. I should have known better, emphasizing the whole time how much the Russians are reliant on railways. It would be unthinkable, it should be unthinkable, that the Russians do not have the means to build pontoon bridges that can carry railways. And as you can see, a viewer mentioned it to me, showed me this video, and it clearly shows that the Russians are building a pontoon bridge that can actually carry trains and even roads beside it, which was more or less obvious that this should be possible. It seems to be an issue if the water level changes too much, but in the Black Sea there's barely any high tide or low tide. I think the level is a few centimeters, so in total it shouldn't be much of an issue, which means that the Russians will be able to create a pontoon bridge even if that bridge here is destroyed. The damage now is being recorded, and there are some claims that the picture we saw yesterday, that this is not showing the full damage, because here, while there's some damage here, supposedly the damage visible was further down the bridge, down the railway. But the interesting fact remains that it seems, at least like it, that the damage was done on solid ground, not on the bridge itself, where obviously it would have been much, much bigger. From what we've seen, it seems like all they have to do is fix a few train tracks and add some more gravel, and that would be it. Obviously, it'll be a little more difficult, but it didn't seem to cause structural damage, especially when it's on solid ground. So whether that might be a targeting mistake, whether that might be the result of inaccuracy from the storm shadows, we do not know, but it still remains interesting that the hit seems to be not on the bridge itself, but close to it, only close to it. The bigger news, though, is the attack on Moscow. In 3 nights in a row, within 3 nights, a second attack on Moscow happened. We have Riba here saying that it was 3 drones. 2 of them were shot down with the air defense, while the third one was disabled with electronic warfare means. After it was disabled, it hit the IQ quarter tower, which then caused some damage. But the important part is that even Riba, or Voenko for that matter as well, do not claim that the Ukrainians tried to strike some civilian target. They say it basically hit the building after our electronic warfare systems disabled it, so its targeting did no longer work. We see the damage that is being caused here in this video from a surveillance camera inside of the building. And this is it outside. You can see it here. The damage seems to be not in an issue that it would cause problems to the structure of the building itself. Here, the drone has actually been filmed while passing by, one of the drones at least. And it can be identified as a Ukrainian Beaver drone, which we see here. The Riba claimed that the strike on the airport of Kharkiv happened with the attempt to probably destroy some of them. And you can see the clear characteristics of the small wings in the front that are visible here. These drones supposedly have a range of 1,000 kilometers, so either they can be launched far inside of Ukraine and still hit Moscow, or they have a reach far further than Moscow itself. This isn't all, though. Ukrainians have also developed a second drone. I would probably call it a Ukrainian Shahid, because while this is nicely done here, birthday and everything, this is more or less a Ukrainian Shahid. By all the looks of it, size of it, and the likely warhead of somewhere probably between around 5 kilos, 5, maybe 10 kilos, it's supposedly still having a range of 500 kilometers. So this drone alone should be more or less capable to reach Moscow, or at least really close to it, while according to the Ukrainians, it only costs $15,000. While the Ukrainians have presented 2 drones now, With this one here and the Beaver drone that have a decent range, there is doubt within the Western community of experts whether they have been able so far to harden it in sufficiently against electronic warfare, because there are too many reports of the Russians influencing them, whereas we barely see any claim of this with the Shahid drones. I've read an analysis according to which it's likely that the Iranian Shahid drones are much more hardened against electronic warfare systems than the Ukrainians. So this would be a significant disadvantage, even though obviously it might be added, it might be improved at later versions. These are, from all we know, more or less the first versions of those drones at all. They should be able to learn from experiences after all. If we go to the developments along the front line, and we start in the north, there's fighting around northeast of Kupiansk. I've read that the Russians try to push the Ukrainians over the Oskil River, which we see here. I do not see any proof of anything having changed on the ground. There are also reports that the Russians attacked further at Novosilivske. No proven change here, and this is going to be a theme of this today's episode, because we're going to continue this everywhere. Not only here is no change recorded, also at the Russian bridgehead over the Sherebets between Raihorodka and Novovodiane. Here it's somewhat different, as we do have Riba, for instance, agreeing that nothing has changed, but they say they defeated Ukrainian attacks. So both sides are in agreement that the Ukrainians attack. Riba is writing that they are sending additional reinforcements, etc. But what they are saying, they stop it here. And if you look at the map, they claim that Nadia and Novoihorivka are still more or less under Russian control, while we have the Ukrainians claiming that Nadia was liberated and Novoihorivka is either liberated or at least contested at this very moment. So while both sides do not agree on the exact position of the front line, both sides more or less agree that it hasn't changed any further. I cannot independently verify where exactly the front line is. Is Nadia liberated now or not? I did not see any proof that would confirm it or deny it. So for me, unfortunately, I'm not able to give you a finite answer unless I want to simply choose one side, which I choose to believe more for today. As said, proof is not existent to my knowledge for the exact position of the front line. We have further south, we have reports about fighting in the Serebryansk forest. The Russians are claiming to have taken, I think, 6 or 8 Ukrainian positions in there. No proof whatsoever, no geolocalization that I've seen that shows that they have advanced. So while it's somewhat possible, I mean, now and then they have advanced over the last few months, I do not see that they have achieved anything reasonably, anything proven within the last 24 to 48 hours. Further south, we have further reports about fighting close to Orikhovo-Vasilivka, Berchivka, and Yahidne. Also, fighting is continuing here, but it's again the same, no proven change of territory. Voenko, for instance, a Russian military blogger, are claiming the Ukrainians did a mechanized attack from the south in the direction of Klishivka. They claim the Russians defeated it and destroyed a tank and a BMP. I do not see any visual evidence of those destroyed attacks, but I do not see either side claiming that they have gained some ground, that they have lost some ground. So while fighting is continuing, the situation seems to be more or less the same in this regard. Further south, the same at Avdiivka. Some fighting reported around Avdiivka. At Krasnohorivka and Marinka, no change in the control of territory. So we can directly switch over to the border between the two oblasts, Zaporizhzhia and Donetsk, south of Velika Novosilka. We have the reports that there's some fighting around Staromayorsk, but not intensive. So no big attacks from either side, and mostly artillery. What both sides agree upon is that the northern part of Staromayorsk is under Ukrainian control. The Russians claim, though, that the center and the south are now contested in the gray area, as they call it. I do not see certain proof of this, so I can confirm the Ukrainians are definitely still in the northern part of Staromayorsk. Whether they have been pushed further into the north from the south of the town, I cannot confirm. I have no visual proof that would confirm that they are no longer in the southern part. Unfortunately, I do not see a way to prove this as of now, but we see that the Ukrainians were able to hold some positions that they've recently gained, so they made advances there and were at least not completely pushed back. Further west, reports Riba is reporting a smaller attack that was defeated on Robotine. Voenkour was talking about several attacks, but they are saying all of mostly infantry, so smaller attacks, and nothing changed there as well. And we have a small video here. This is a Leopard 2A6 in Zaporizhzhia that is operating there, and you'll see that it's not close, so it's doing more long-range support in this video clip. And here it's firing, and here we see something that seems to be a hit. Unfortunately, the video stops a second later, so we have no clue what that led to. This might led to the destruction because it caught fire and then cooked off. It might have hit the tracks and demobilized it, forcing the Ukrainians to abandon it, or the armor might have taken it and they just kept rolling and fighting without any problem. We simply do not have a proof. I've seen Russian sources claiming that it was hit by an RPG. This seems to clearly be a hit, but it could also just be a near miss. So exactly, unfortunately, we do not know much except that it's a Leopard 2A6 and that it's fighting, and that's more or less it. When we go further, we are going further west here to the area of Vasilivka, Kamyanske. There, the Russians, the situation remains the same as well. The Russians are claiming the whole time that Piatikhatki is in the gray area, so they claim the Ukrainians do not have a permanent presence in there, while the Ukrainians do claim it. That is not fully confirmable by me, because the Russians do not claim that they are inside. So even if I find a video of some Ukrainians being shelled there, it just proves the point that they are at least now and then inside of town. Whether they have a permanent presence, as this map, for instance, this pro-Ukrainian map would imply, I cannot confirm. There's the fresh report that 16 men tried to enter, 16 Ukrainian, coming from the Russian, 16 Ukrainian tried to enter Piatikhatki and were pushed back while being fired upon. Unclear there. Clear is both sides agree that the situation hasn't changed further over the last 48 hours, and the Russians do not claim that they can control Piatikhatki, so it remains clear that they are pushed out of Piatikhatki, but whether the Ukrainians hold a permanent presence in there or not is unclear. Along the Dnipro, we have some reports of the Russians report some amphibious activity in the southern islands here in this area. They claim several naval operations by the Ukrainians, and they say that they defeated some of them and pushed them back. But in general, Riba is saying the situation is getting increasingly less comfortable. The issue is that while this is by now not a big issue, the Ukrainians try to extend their control over the islands permanently, and they try to continue doing this, which might cause problems in the long run. Riba is worried in this regard, basically demanding that they have to be expelled, especially as at the same time Riba, for instance, was reporting about a bigger Ukrainian unit. I think they talked about 2,000 or 3,000 men that are currently being trained in Scotland for amphibious activities. There were claims that US Special Forces are training Ukrainian soldiers here on the inhulets in river crossings. So from the Russian side, there are claims that the Ukrainians basically prepare to go over the Dnipro in earnest with full forces, with mechanized units in the long run, that they will try to open a new front, and that keeps them worried. As of now, we do not see any proof that the Ukrainians will try to expand further than the islands here on the Dnipro, but obviously if they see a chance and a realistic chance of success, they will likely do so, but I don't see it anywhere close yet. We have a report from the Ukrainian Deputy Defense Minister Anna Malyar. She was saying that the Ukrainian forces liberated 2 square kilometers in Bakhmut in the last week. So 2 square kilometers is all that even the Ukrainian side is claiming. They are not even claiming more than 2 square kilometers. And in the southern front, they claim 12.6 square kilometers in the Melitopol and Berdyansk directions, and that's usually meant here Orikhiv as well as Velika Novosilka down here. So in the whole area, they claim 12.6, which is like 3 by 4 kilometers. That's not nothing, but it's not amazing, and 2 square kilometers is even less. So while the Ukrainians are claiming that they still advance, the advances are definitely nothing to brag about, and we'll have to see how the offensive will continue after that. Also, there's a report by the Russians that the Ukrainians attacked the patrol boats Vasily Bykov and the Sergei Kotov south in the southern Black Sea. It was somewhere close to the Bosphorus, so I guess somewhere in this area, but it's a guesswork. It will have been in international waters. The Russian mill bloggers are claiming that before that, US reconnaissance planes and drones were surveilling the ship. So basically, they claim that the US gave direct targeting data to the Ukrainians. There's obviously no proof for that direct involvement, but it seems at least possible. But yeah, this is more or less guesswork to think about it as now how far the leading of the attack boats, the suicide drones is done by the Americans. This is mostly guesswork and speculation from either side, unless we find some leaked documents that are trustworthy. Other than that, overall, the situation hasn't changed too much. So we'll have to see how the counteroffensive will continue. Leave a comment in the comment section what you think, if the Ukrainians will gain steam again, if they will be able to continue their offensive and finally gain some bigger grounds, or if that's already the end of it. Leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed this situation report. And if you're new here, I would like to invite you to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss future videos. This channel is only possible because of the support of viewers like you. If you like to support the channel, you can do so by the means in the description. And thank you very much to everyone already having supported this channel. That's it from me for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back.